My name is Daniel Hart. Dan, to everyone except the woman who used to call me Danny when I came in from the shop, smelling like oil and coffee. I'm 56. I own 3 auto shops in the Seattle area, Air and Ear, Auto, and Transmission. Heartline Brakes, and a small place in Kent where the garage door rattles when you open it. And my techs refuse to fix it because they say the rattle keeps the ghosts happy. It was a Tuesday when my son blew through my front door like a storm looking for things to break. Dad, I need $5,000. Tonight. Mason's hoodie was damp from the Seattle drizzle, sneakers squeaking on my hardwood. I still had a pen in my hand from reviewing invoices. Grease clung under my nails from Mrs. Chen's Camry, the one that talks to me when it's cold. Mason, what? 5,000, he snapped, pacing like something was chasing him. You've already sent the $3,000. Yeah, but rent's barely touches it. I have other things. I need it now. The aggression in his voice wasn't a request. It was a demand, edged and ugly. This wasn't the boy I raised to hold a door, to carry in groceries, to kiss his mother's cheek. This was a stranger wearing my son's face. I sent your monthly amount last week, I said. We've talked about a budget, he laughed without humor. A budget? You're sitting on money. You act like a dictator because you can. Why should I grind when you've got it stacked? When I'll get it anyway. The casual way he said it stopped me. The arithmetic behind his eyes wasn't about bills. It was about me being a vault he intended to open by force or time. You need steady work, I said, my voice going military straight without my permission. That was the deal when I agreed to help this year. You said you'd put in applications. Work. He spun, face flushed. After you die, I'll run those shops better than you ever did. Everyone knows it. Something in me went quiet. Not quiet. The room narrowed to the family photo on the mantel, Sarah holding an 8-year-old in his too big Little League jersey, sunlight in their hair. 20 years of single fatherhood leaned on me in that second late-night bottle feeds. Homework at greasy tables, an empty bed I learned not to roll too far into. Mason, I said, and the name tasted like metal. He saw it. He saw the shock he'd put there, and his expression flickered, realizing he'd said the quiet part out loud. He grabbed the door handle like a lifeline. The slam shook the frame. Sarah's picture rattled in its stand, then settled. A tremor that didn't quite leave the glass. I stood a long time, the pen biting a groove into my palm. Outside, his engine revved and went. The next morning, I straightened our photo. Sarah's smile didn't accuse. It never did. She died when Mason was 13, leaving me with a mortgage 3 months late. A shop on its knees, and a boy hanging by threads he didn't know the names of yet. I promised her, forehead to the back of her hand, that I'd give him what she couldn't. I kept that promise in tuition checks and dorm fees and the kind of patience you fake until it becomes a muscle. By Thursday, I had half the photo albums spread across the dining table. I wasn't torturing myself. I was remembering the ledger of love I never wrote down. The $40,000 a year for private school because Sarah wanted him in a place with art rooms and teachers who learned names. The University of Washington bill with the dorm he insisted on because college isn't college unless it smells like ramen and laundry. The summer internship he could have had at the shop, which he refused because I'm not going to be a grease monkey. Dad, I set the album down and looked at the calendar. The shop ran fine without me for a week, Gus. My foreman is better than I am at transmissions. And Alina runs the front like a general with candy in her pocket. My phone buzzed. A text from Mason. I need it by Friday. Don T. Play games? I'm serious. I don't argue in texts. I called. He didn't pick up. I made 3 calls of my own. 1 to Elizabeth Parker Liz, my attorney. I want to meet Monday, I said. Revise everything. Trust. Powers of attorney. The works. 8 a.m., she said. Bring coffee and Dan. Protect yourself this weekend. Don't sign anything. Don't go anywhere alone. You can't leave. 2. To my neighbor across the hall, a retired nurse named Gloria, with a spine made of seasoned oak. I'm heading out of town, I told her. If you see Mason trying my door, call me. and called downstairs. "I'll bring you a casserole when you get back," she said. "Put your ring on a chain. Men make better decisions when they remember who they promised." 3. To a number I hadn't dialed in years. Cole, Maddox's army buddy turned bush pilot. We'd done cold weather training together when we were young and sure. Cole left the service and moved to Anchorage, trading helicopter rotors for propellers and mountains. "Danny Hart," he said when he picked up, voice like gravel in sunshine. "To what do I owe the sin?" "You still flying that battered DHC to Beaver?" I asked. "Flies better than your mouth," he said. "You coming up?" "I might," I said. "Thinking about taking Mason out for a few days? Talk, fish, think." "Come to Talkeetna," he said. "We'll get you lost where you can still be found, Cole," I said. My voice saying the part my brain didn't want to, if my kid does something dumb. I need to not die for it. He was quiet a second. "Bring cash," he said, "and a spot beacon. I'll stash a cache on coordinates you can find with a good memory and a bad." Day I ordered the beacon and a knife like the one I'd carried in the service. I packed my old wool, my new resolve, and the photo of Sarah I keep in my wallet. Corners worn soft by a thumb that goes there when the engine knocks. Friday morning, I sent Mason a message. "Road trip. You and me, Alaska. 3 days. You talk. I listen. We fish. We eat breakfast food for dinner. You in?" He replied in 2 minutes. "Fine. Sounds epic. You paying for everything." Obviously. We flew out of SeaTac in a pair of seats that smelled like recycled air and pretzels. Mason wore noise-canceling headphones and a hoodie that said "No, God's no bosses" in a font someone designed to look like rebellion and sold for $89. I wore the flannel Sarah had liked and the ring she gave me, on a chain like Gloria told me. Anchorage was crisp and clean the way a city is when mountains teach it manners. Cole met us at baggage claim, taller than I remembered and louder. He hugged me like the years had been a weekend. "This your boy?" he asked, sticking out a hand. "Mason," my son said, eyes flicking to the leather flight jacket, to the scuffed boots, to the weather and the lines around Cole's mouth. "You look like trouble," Cole said cheerfully. "You like trouble?" Mason smiled the way boys do when men they can't read take their measurement. "Sometimes," he said. "Good," Cole said. "Alaska likes it too. She just likes you to admit it." We grabbed a rental truck and followed Cole north to Talkeetna Airstrip. A handful of places where coffee is religion, and mountains like teeth, if teeth were holy. Cole's hangar smelled like oil, duct tape, and stories. He walked us to the plane, the DHC-2, in faded white with a red stripe that looked like it had earned its way through storms. He tapped the rivets like a prayer. "We'll hop you out to the edge of the Susitna," he said. "Flat enough to land, far enough for quiet. I'll be back Sunday by noon. You'll have a sat beacon. If you get stupid, press the SOS. If you get bored, build a fire." Mason's eyes lit. He likes gear. He likes the idea of danger as long as danger is #Gable. "Grizzlies," he said, like he was asking about celebrities. "Grizzlies," Cole said. Big as the lies boys tell about themselves, we loaded. We flew. The ground slipped into a quilt of green and glitter. From above, the forest looks harmless. It looks like it's waiting. It's not. We came down on a strip of flat meadow that might have been a beaver's idea before it was ours. Cole killed the engine, the silence slamming in like a door. "I'll see you Sunday," he said. He put a hand on my shoulder and squeezed once. A message logged between men who'd once slept under the same tarp, while snow argued with their faces. To Mason, he said, "Pack out what you pack in. That includes words." He took off. The plane growing small, then swallowed by sky. We stood, alone in a place that makes you honest. I'd packed 2 identical packs, one for me. One for Mason, food enough for 3 days, if you treat hunger like a note in a pocket and not a siren. A tent, a filter, a stove, the essentials. I'd packed a third. Smaller kit on my belt-to-belt, I wear as a habit and a superstition. ferro rod, folding saw, a vacuum-sealed package of lifeline space, blanket water tabs, 8 feet of paracord that has saved more egos than ankles. I handed Mason his pack. We're not doing miles, I said. We're doing still. We camp by the stream. We talk. You tell me what you think I don't hear. I'll say things I'm bad at saying. I love you. That's one of them. He shrugged, words clattering around in him, not finding anything to hit. Cool, he said. I'll, bathroom break. Don't go far, I said. Sing, if you see a bear. He walked off into the trees. It took me half a beat too long to hear the missing sound, the silence of deliberate feet. Mason in hiking boots still sounds like a kid in a kitchen. This was careful. I stepped to the tree line and watched from shadow. My son moved like a boy who's practiced leaving. He had my pack in his hands. He set it on the tailgate of the truck, opened it, and fished out the food pouch, the filter, the stove. He threw them into the brush at a distance that said this wasn't a prank. It was a plan. He zipped the pack, closed the tailgate, and turned. His face a tight thing. He came back into the clearing with the kind of smile that doesn't go to eyes. All set? He asked. I'll grab a few more branches, I said lightly, as if my heart hadn't just learned a new language for breaking. I walked into the trees, counting. 15 paces. Off trail, my boots remembering a life they hadn't lived in 20 years. I tucked the duplicate food pouch I'd sealed and hidden in a hollow stump. Earlier. Insurance. I palmed the spot beacon in my pocket. A button between me and a man who owed me more than a plane ride. I returned with an armful of spruce and quiet Mason, stood by the driver's door of the rental. Keys in hand he hadn't had 5 minutes ago. Maybe he'd palmed them from the hangar. Maybe he'd been born with that skill, and I'd called it charm. Hey, Dad, he said. And for a second I saw the little boy freckles, skinned knee, jelly on his cheek. Then he looked like the man who'd walked into my house and demanded a number. What are you doing? I asked. I didn't raise my voice. I wanted his to have room to echo. He rolled his shoulders, casual like a TV character who's never been punched by weather. Just checking something, he said. Then he opened the door, climbed in, and turned the engine. The sound felt wrong in that place. He put it in drive, tires whispering on meadow. I stepped forward, not running, not pleading, just the length of a father's arm from a son's face. He leaned out the window. He didn't look at me. He looked past me like I was already a story he'd told the way he needed to. Bye, he said, and it was almost cheerful. Go meet a grizzly. The truck rolled. The truck left. The truck became noise, then memory, then not even that. I stood in a clearing in Alaska. The spruce hemming me in, the sky big enough to forgive almost anything. I let the panic knock on the door. I didn't invite it in. Okay? I said to the trees. All right. I looked down at my belt kit. At the ferro rod. At the knife. At the beacon. I looked at the hollow stump 15 paces in. Sarah, I said. To the woman who could still quiet me from a photograph, I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to fix this. I built a small fire with hands that hadn't forgotten. Dry twig, feathered shavings, a spark drawn lazy down the rod to tinder kissed into flame. I boiled water from the stream and poured it into a pouch that promised beef stew and gave me salt and memory. I ate. I made camp. I hung my food high and my sorrow low. At dusk, a shape moved on the far edge of bear, brown as old pennies, big as the lie boys tell when they don't know the truth yet. He lifted his head, sniffed, decided I wasn't interesting, thundered away through trees that closed like curtains. I slept in slices. Morning came slow and golden, and with it, the sound I'd been waiting for since the tires left wings. Cole's beaver circled once, then again. He landed where he'd landed yesterday, the plane settling like it trusted the earth in a way men don't always. He cut the engine and leaned out, face a question. Your boy? He called, went to meet a grizzly. I called back. He stared at me a long time. Get in, he said. We lifted into a sky that felt like a second chance. He handed me a thermos with coffee that tasted like the truth. You have the thing? He asked, chin toward my pocket. I showed him the beacon. He nodded. Good. Now for the surprise. What surprise? I asked. The one you're going to give him, he said, eyes on the horizon. When you beat him home, asterisk, before we continue, hit subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. This next stretch isn't about heroics. It's about remembering what you already know when the ground goes. Quiet Cole didn't just happen to swing back the next morning. When we'd loaded the beaver, he'd said, press the SPOTOK at 0800 and 1800. If I don't see the morning ping by noon, I make a pass. If you hit SOS, I bring the cavalry. I had hit OK at 0800, but I also lit a smoky spruce fire and flashed my signal mirror when I heard his engine. Belt and suspenders. You don't get to be my age by trusting one plan. We lifted and skimmed the edge of mountains that looked close enough to. Bruise if you got cocky. I told him everything. The short way my pack lightened. Food tossed, the smile at the window, the words, go meet a grizzly. Cole's jaw worked like he was chewing something that didn't want to be swallowed. I've ferried messes, he said. Boys who thought Glacier Blue would look good in selfies. Nobody I trusted would drive off like that. Me neither, I said. He banked right. I'm not taking you back to Talkeetna, he said. Not yet. Weather's rude on that side and you look like you need a place that doesn't echo. We'll drop at Kuskulana Cabin. There's a VHF there. You can make your calls. There's a man of Priver you should meet if he's home. We came down on a gravel bar stitched with driftwood. The beaver settled like it knew the stones by name. Cole cut the engine, looked at me, then at the trees. You good? He asked. I'm good, I said. I wasn't. But I was done being anything else. He pointed up a faint path. 1/2 mile. Cabin's federal. Leave it better than you found it. He lifted off. The plane got small. The world got loud with little things, water, wind, and spruce. A raven sang the same opinion over and over. The cabin was where he said it would be. Logs. Green roof. A porch that had listened to 1,000 boots. A sign inside the door with the rules everyone knows. Pack it out. Don't be gross, woodpile. Use some, leave more. A 2-burner stove, a battered coffee pot, a VHF with a whip antenna that had seen things. I warmed my hands around black coffee that tasted like regret and relief. Then I keyed the radio. Talkeetna Air. This is Hart at Kuskulana Cabin. Looking for Maddox. Crackle. Then go ahead, Hart. This is Maddox. Confirm you saw the ping. Got it? You want me to call troopers? Yes, I said, but not for a rescue. For a report? I took a breath. I'm okay. I'm making a report of abandonment and reckless endangerment. I'm not pressing charges today. I want it on the record. Copy, Cole said. You sure you don't want to ride to Anchorage this second? I will, I said. After 2 calls, he knew better than to argue. 10-4. I'll put the note in with a stay non-emergency. They'll want your statement when you're back in civilization. I sat with the radio and my list. First, Liz. I got her voicemail. Liz, it's Dan. Alaska trip went sideways. I'm safe. Monday, 8 a.m. is too late. I need to move assets into a revocable trust. Name you as successor trustee. A DD spendthrift language, and update powers of attorney. I also need a letter on your letterhead confirming my capacity in your representation. One more. I want to add a clause to my will no contest. Call me as soon as you hear this. Next. Gus. He picked up on the second ring. Boss. Hey, big guy, I said. His voice knocked something loose in my chest. The sound of normal? You okay? Alina told me Mason borrowed your truck last night and brought it back empty. Define empty. No gas, he said. Not empty like. Empty. My brain filed that away. I need you to do a few things, I said. 1. Change the office safe combo and hide the ledger backups in the second drawer under the old invoice forms. 2. Pull the dashcam card from the Kent shop bay. 3. Tell Alina she's in charge of bank deposits until I say otherwise. And tell both of you I'm buying dinner when I get home. Gus grunted something that meant, of course, and I've got you. And also, it could bench press your problems until they squealed. You hear me? He asked after a beat. I do, I said. Good, because if that boy of yours shows his face at the shop, I'll be polite, but my politeness will have springs. Stand down if he does, I said. Tell him to call me. Copy, he said. Elena's already made a speech about boundaries. Of course she has, I said. Put her name on the Christmas bonus early. When I hung up, the radio squealed. A voice came through, warm and careful. You Hart? This is Evan, cabin up the bend. Cole said you might knock. I'm Hart, I said. I can knock without breaking anything if you've got coffee that needs company. A chuckle. Bring the pot, he said. I followed the river until it braided into channels the color of ground glass. They look friendly until they climb your legs. I tested with a stick, took a step too far, and the current found my knee with hands. Another step, and it found my hip a cold that isn't temperature so much as intent. I froze, back out sideways, a voice called from upstream. Face the push. Small steps. Don't fight. Partner with. The word partner did more than any shout. I did as told. Easing into the shallows like I was returning something I'd borrowed and hadn't meant to keep, he stood on a shingle. Bar late 60s, maybe. Wiry, a wool cap, a face that had a story at the bottom of every line. He held a long pole and a grin he didn't make me earn. Rivers like people, he said. Looks pretty from the window? Kills you if you call it pretty to its face. Noted, I said, heart thudding a ricochet. I'm Tom Evan, he said. People say Athabaskan or Denaina about me when they're being technical. You can say Tom, Dan, I said. People say stubborn about me when they're being kind. Good, he said. Stubborn people make coffee taste better. His cabin was neat in the way that has nothing to do with magazines. The woodpile squared to the line, the floor swept with a pride you don't broadcast. A dog with one blue eye lifted his head, huffed, psst, and went back to the kind of sleep you only get when you've outrun a lot of days. We sat with tin cups. He listened more than he talked. I told him the short version and the longer feelings. He nodded in the way of someone who has seen suns go out in boats and come back, men or not. Call, they forget men are people too, he said. The sons, they think we were born bosses. They forget we had to learn how to carry. Mine wants the keys, I said. He doesn't want to learn how not to crash. Tom snorted. Then don't give him the truck, he said simply. I say it like I'm not telling you something you already know. I showed him Sarah's photo. He didn't say sorry. He touched the corner of the picture with 2 fingers and nodded like he was acknowledging a flag. You need the radio? He asked. I made my calls, I said. One more after the plane lands. Then I need to get home before Mason does. He grinned. You can get to Anchorage faster if you don't go to Anchorage, he said, like a riddle. Cole knows. Back door. The back door was this. Weather rolling into the Cook Inlet like a promise that liked to be broken. Cole could bump me to Fairbanks before the soup moved in, and a red-eye to SeaTac that would beat any flight out of Anchorage if Mason hit a delay. If you've ever left Alaska, you know, you don't wrestle the sky. You make friends with a road that isn't closed yet. I left the cabin better than I'd found its wept, with stacked a Ziploc of coffee beans on the shelf as a thank you. Tom accepted the bag like a man who appreciates a good trade. I tucked 200s under the edge of his radio with a short note for fuel, for the pole. For the words at the gravel bar, Cole was already idling. He saw my face and didn't ask if I was sure. We hopped to Fairbanks over a weather front that looked like a wool blanket thrown over a table of mountains. He dropped me on the tarmac with a military salute he stole from a younger life. Text me when you're home, he said. And Dan? Yeah. You can love a boy and still not let him hold the map. Fairbanks to Seattle on a plane that thought it was very funny to leave 5 minutes early. I dozed with a hand on my ring, a stack of plans in my chest, and a prayer that tasted like black coffee. Help me not be small when I tell the truth. By noon Sunday, I was in my apartment. Gloria met me in the hall in slippers and battle readiness. You look like someone took you apart and put you back in different order. She said they forgot a few screws. I said, "We'll find them," she said. She handed me a casserole. "Put this in the fridge so you can feed your boy or throw it at his head. Whatever the evening requires." I laughed, then didn't. "Thanks," I said. We set the stage. Liz called at 12:40. "I drafted the trust," she said. "Revocable now, with me as successor trustee, if you're incapacitated or gone. Spendthrift clauses. No direct distributions to Mason. Education and health support at the trustee's discretion. House goes into the trust with a life estate for you. No contest clause in the will. Updated powers of attorney, me for financial, Gloria for health if you want. We notarize first thing Monday. I can send you a letter tonight for the fridge capacity and council." "Do it," I said, "and send a template employment letter. I want an on-ramp at the shop, apprentice, hourly. 30 days sober from entitlement before he sets foot in a bay." She chuckled. "I'll workshop that phrase for HR. I called the rental company in Anchorage and asked politely if they could email me the check-in, check-out photo from the lot. They did. Mason at the wheel, time-stamped. I called Cole. He texted me a still from a hangar cam. Mason palming keys on Friday like a magician who learned from YouTube. Cole added, "Pull this when you report." "You're not crazy. I set up my small kitchen camera, the one I use when I'm recording. How-tos for customers who can't explain their problem beyond it goes clunk, facing the living room. Legal where I live. On when I'm present, I put Sarah's photo on the coffee table, not as a prop, as a witness. I place the SPOT beacon next to the photo. A little orange thing, glowing like a cherry when it wants to matter. I took my ring off and laid it next to the spot. Then I put it back on my chain. I don't make speeches without it. At 3:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. Mason, landed. Be there in an hour. Got your money? No punctuation. No curiosity. Just the math of a man who thinks the bank is always open. I sent one line. Come home. We'll talk. Gloria texted. I'm across the hall with my door open and my mouth shut unless you nod. Gus, you want me there? No, I typed. Not yet. At 4:08 p.m., tires hissed outside. A car door slammed. Footsteps up the hall. The key turned in my doorknob like nothing had happened between two trees and an old promise. The door swung. Mason walked in like a man checking a balance. Hoodie, red eyes from sleep or not sleep. He stopped when he saw me. Surprise flickered, then something else, annoyance. No, recalculation. He didn't ask how. He asked a different question with his face. Did the problem solve itself? Hey, he said, casual as a borrowed shirt. You got my text? I stood, hands empty. The camera blinked its tiny red dot. Gloria's shadow moved behind her peephole like a patron saint. Sit, I said quietly. He smirked like we were in a play he'd seen. He flopped onto the couch, legs wide, posture invented to spread. His eyes landed on the spot, then on Sarah. He didn't look long. I have a surprise for you, I said. He rolled his eyes. Is it $5,000? Because that would be a nice surprise. No, I said. It's a mirror. He squinted like the word had too many sides. I reached into the drawer of the coffee table and pulled out a small remote. I clicked, and my TV lit with a still frame Cole had sent me. The hanger. Mason's hand on a pegboard of keys. The date stamp. I clicked again. The next image, the rental lot exit. His face in a side view mirror. Now set in a line. I recognized from 100 small rebellions I'd let pass. His shoulders tightened, a fraction. So, he said. So, I said, my voice as steady as I could make it. You left me in the Alaskan bush and told me to go meet a grizzly. Then you came home expecting me to be here with my wallet open? I am here. The wallet isn't, he laughed, a short, ugly bark. You can't prove anything. I don't have to, I said. I have enough. And I have witnesses. And I have a line. He leaned forward. "You're not calling cops," he said. "You won't. You're not that guy." "Today," I said, "I'm the guy who calls a lawyer, foreman, and a friend who flies before I call the cops. Today, I'm the guy who chooses repair before revenge. But I logged a report with Alaska State Troopers. It exists. If you push me, it becomes something with teeth." He went very still. Then he went very loud. "You're insane," he snapped. "You're going to ruin my life because you took a vacation and got lost?" I didn't raise my voice. "I didn't get lost," I said. "I got left. We sat in the room we had lived in for years and said nothing. Sometimes the only way to get the temperature to drop is to stop adding steam. I'm offering you something," I said finally. "It's not cash. It's not keys. It's a job. Apprentice at Rainier. Minimum wage. Full-time. You start Mondays with brooms and end Fridays checking torque. 6 months clean. No access to books. No access to back office. If you show me a man who can carry weight that isn't his ego, we talk about more. If you don't, we don't." He laughed again, less loud, more wounded. "You're going to make me a grease monkey. I'm going to give you a way to respect the ground you think you own," said. "And Mason?" "The will's changed. The shops are in a trust. You're not in control of it. If I die tomorrow, Liz controls disbursements. Your rent is not an emergency." His ears went red. "You can't do that." "I did," I said. "You can live like a man who isn't waiting for an old one to stop breathing. Or you can live somewhere else. Silence. The good kind. The kind where a choice puts on its shoes." He stared at Sarah's photo a long time. Then he looked at me like I was a puzzle with 3 missing pieces he'd been blaming for years. "You were supposed to be gone," he said. But the sentence had lost most of its venom. It came out confused. I thought he cut it off, which is mercy you don't always get. "I know what you thought," I said. "And I know what I thought." "I thought maybe next time he'll choose better until the next time got too expensive," he swallowed. His jaw ticked. He didn't cry. He also didn't stand and slam a door. "Work," he said. Like he was testing whether the word could still sit in his mouth without breaking a tooth. "Work," I said. "Or walk." He looked at the apartment door like it had never been there before. He looked at the kitchen like he'd never seen the sink. He looked at the spot. He looked at Sarah. "What time?" he asked, and the voice was not a demand. It was a man trying on a phrase to see if it fit. "Monday. 7 a.m., I said. "Gus will be there. Alina will hand you a broom. You will listen more than you talk. You will call me Sir Never, and you will call me Dad only when you mean it." He snorted a laugh he didn't mean to let escape. "Okay," he said. "Very small. But it was there, okay?" I said back. He stood. He didn't hug me. He didn't spit. He walked to the door and then stopped with his hand on the knob like the room had given him a story he didn't know whether to bring with him. "I didn't think you could do it," he said without turning. "Beat me home." "I've been beating the odds for a long time," I said. "You just haven't been watching." He left. The door closed. Gloria knocked, then didn't come in, because respect is contagious if you let it be. I sat and let my hands shake. Then I stopped them. On Monday, we signed the trust. Liz brought coffee. Gus brought a look that could lift a car. Mason brought himself to the bay at 6:58. Hoodie traded for a shop shirt Alina had stitched with his name. Repair, not revenge. It's slower. It's heavier. It holds better. Asterisk. Quick note if you're listening on the channel, hit subscribe. We're getting to the part that actually changes people. Monday, 6:58 a.m. Rainier Auto and Transmission looked like a stage before a play. Lights waking. Compressors coughing their first breath, the smell of rubber and coffee deciding who was stronger. Mason came through the side door in a clean shop shirt Alina had ordered on Friday, his name stitched tight above the pocket. He still wore the hoodie, but it was around his waist. Progress by inches. Gus sized him up like a man checks a jack truss, then verify. "You're early," he said. "I'm here," Mason said. Which was the more important sentence. Alina slid a clipboard into his hands and tapped a laminated sheet. 2 things, she said. Safety and respect. You clock in, you grab PPE, you don't start an engine without a hood prop, and you never ever tug on a stuck bolt with your mouth open. We start here. She handed him a broom. Mason flushed. Then he took it. Yes, ma'am, he said. And I saw Lena file that away in the place where she keeps hope. Day 1 was sweeping, mopping, emptying the aluminum bin without showering the back lot and soda cans. Day 2, Gus put a torque chart in his hand and a torque wrench in the other. Tight is not a feeling, he said. It's a number. By day 5, Mason had cross-threaded a lug nut on a Civic and turned it into a teaching moment he didn't want. Back it out slow, Gus coached. Chase the threads. Own the mistake out loud. Mason went red, owned it, and stayed late to clean it up. The owner, a barista with a pink streak in her hair and a laugh that forgives a lot, said, "Thanks for not pretending," and tipped our jar so hard the bills stood up. On day 12, he tried to coast on charm with Ernesto, our senior tech, who's forgotten more than most men will learn. Ernesto held up a hand without looking up from the alternator guts. Can you ask the question with a verb and a plan? Said. Then, yes. Mason swallowed, rephrased, and brought a verb and a plan. Ernesto nodded just enough to register appreciation. That nod is rarer than a clear January day. There were bad days. Day 23, he flung a rag across Bay 2 when a drain plug wouldn't seat and noise from a busted tailpipe made thinking feel like a myth. He muttered, "This is beneath me," under his breath. Gus heard it and drew a circle in the air with a ratchet. What's beneath you is gravity, Gus said. Everything else you climb. Mason got very quiet, then asked for a second torque wrench to check himself. He fixed the drain plug. He said, "Thank you," to Gus like the words might crack him open. They didn't. They just made room. I didn't hover. I swept with him on day 1 and went to my office on day 2. When a customer came in who knows my story, Mrs. Chen with the Camry eye made sure the intro landed right. "Mrs. Chen," I said, "this is Mason. He'll pull your car around and check fluids before Ernesto takes it." Mrs. Chen eyed him like a sophomore who wants to be a senior yesterday. "You the kid with the big ears?" she asked, teasing. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "Good," she said. "Big ears here more." He checked her washer fluid, topped it without overfilling, and didn't spill on the fender. Small things or big things masquerading as humble. On day 31, Mason earned his first good job without asking. A Subaru came in with a parasitic draw draining the battery overnight. Ernesto was elbow deep in a timing belt, and Gus was chasing a ghost misfire. I handed Mason a multimeter. "Sleep mode draw should be under 50 milliamps," I said. "This is pulling 190 pull fuses one by one. Watch the drop." He started with the obvious dome, radio OBD memory. Nothing. He moved to the body control fuses. On the glove box light, the meter fell to 40 milliamps, like a curtain dropping. He opened the glove box. The light stayed on. Simple switch failure, complicated by a warped door that didn't trip the plunger. He looked at me, eyes bright, surprised by the way truth feels when it lands. "It's that," he said. "Door isn't hitting the switch. It's staying on." "Good pull," I said. 2 words. He stood taller. He put the meter away like it had given him a gift at week 6. The Alaska State Troopers called. "This is Trooper Norton," the voice said, calm and sanded smooth by wind. "Is this Daniel Hart?" "It is," I said. "We have your non-emergency report on an incident at a remote strip outside Tokitna. Do you have a few minutes to give a full statement?" We sat in my office, with the door closed. I had Liz on speaker. The trooper took me through a timeline, flight and coordinates, the rental timestamp names. He asked good questions. Lawyer-shaped questions. Was there an argument? Did your son express intent to endanger you? Do you fear for your safety? I told the truth. There was an argument last week. He expressed entitlement. In Alaska, he took the truck and left. He said, quote, "By go meet a Grizzly." I had a belt kit and a satellite beacon. I pressed OK, not SOS. A pilot I know checked on me. I am not pressing charges today. I want to record. If there's escalation, I will reconsider. Liz's MM on the line said we'd threaded the needle. Understood, Norton said. We'll note the report. If you'd like, we can do an informal welfare check by phone with your son no contact. Just a conversation that this is on paper. Do it, I said. He did. Mason got the call that afternoon on his break. He came into the office after, jaw tight, eyes careful. You called the cops, he said. I called for a report, I said. That's what adults do when something happens that shouldn't. I'm choosing repair. I'm not erasing the facts. He swallowed whatever syllable he wanted to throw at me and walked back to Bay 2. He stayed late and bled a break line without swearing. That's character in shop language. A week later, a box landed on the counter at Rainier. No return address, handwriting like carved wood. Inside, a small hand-carved brown bear, sanded smooth, belly etched with 2 words, partner with. Beneath it, a note on torn paper. You did not meet the grizzly. Good. Some men chase bears they can name, so they don't have to face the one they feed with pride and anger. Tell your boy this. Rivers will take you if you fight wrong. Learn the push, sidestep, partner with. If he chooses man, he can stay. If he chooses bear, he walks out of your camp alone. Tiev and I put the bear on my desk where I keep the magnet that says don't guess. Tess the bear looked at me like it knew my tells. Mason saw it when he brought in an ROH for me to sign. What's with the bear? He asked. A man at Priver carved it, I said. I told him the short story, Tom, the river, how sideways steps can beat a flood. I told him the line on the belly. He smirked, then didn't. He read it again. Partner with, he said, half mocking, half thinking. I like fight with better, sure, I said, until the water wins. He didn't answer. He went back to the bay and loosened a seized sway bar link without stripping it penetrating oil patience, then heat. Partner with. He didn't say the words, but every move his hands made did. There were setbacks. Week 9, I caught him on his phone watching a clip of a guy in a Ferrari explaining passive income like torque doesn't exist. I didn't make a speech. I asked him to put the phone away and clean Bay 3. He did without a flinch. The next morning, he asked Ernesto where to buy a decent used torque wrench of his own. That's repentance in a shop. Buy your own tools. Care about numbers. We stapled new habits to old patterns. When he snapped, I didn't snap back. I didn't explain myself 10 times. I gave him choices. When he did something right, I named it. Quietly. Hard things are heavy. Praise should be too. One late Thursday, as rain stitched the alley and the city smelled like wet brake dust. Gus rolled a Grizzly brand shop fan into. Bay 1, the green industrial kind with blades like helicopter rotors and noise like a mild storm. The decal on the side was a Grizzly, cartoon mean. New fan, he grunted. Old one died, putting on a show. Mason pointed. There's your bear, he said to me, half a grin. Nah, I said. I tapped the little carved one on my desk. That's mine. He looked at it again. He didn't roll his eyes. He nodded. The troopers called once more with a polite closeout. Report filed. No further action unless requested. Liz finalized the trust. We retitled the house and the shop accounts. I added Gloria as my healthcare proxy. After she tried to argue, she was too old to be anyone's emergency. You're exactly the kind of old I want at my bedside, I told her. She made lasagna and called me a charmer, as if that were a diagnosis. 3 months in, we hit a Tuesday I'll remember when memory starts dropping stitches. A young dad came in with a stalling Ford Escape. 3 kids under 7 in the waiting room, bouncing between a pile of plastic blocks and the kind of tired only parents know. Money was tight. He needed the truck for his HVAC job. He needed it yesterday. Mason took the intake. He listened without interrupting. He brought me the keys and said, I think it's the throttle body gunked up. It dies at idle, hunts for air, surges when you feather it. Could be math, but the trims don't look wild. We popped the hood. He pulled the intake, cleaned the throttle plate gently like a man shaving in a mirror he respects. Reassembled and reset the idle with the scan tool. The Escape idled like it remembered how to be a car. Total bill. 2 hours. He didn't pad it. He didn't sell a part that didn't need selling. I watched him hand the keys back and explain the work. No jargon, no pretending he invented mechanics, no patronizing. The dad's shoulders came down like the air had dollars in it. One of the kids handed Mason a block with a dinosaur sticker. "Here," she said. "For you." He stuck it on his toolbox. He didn't make a speech or post it. He just stuck it there like a flag. "Good job," I said again, 3 words this time. "Real good." His throat moved. He looked past me, at the carved bear, at the fan, at the bay. "Thanks," he said, and he meant both words. That night he stayed late. He cleaned every drain pan without being asked. He set the torque wrenches back to 0. He put fresh coffee on for morning. Before he left, he tapped Sarah's photo on the office wall gently with his knuckles. Not a ritual. Something like respect and the Grizzly. 2 weeks later, he showed up, sort of. A teenager in a lifted Tacoma whipped into the lot, music garbling the world, hopped out, and decided to show off. "My dad owns a dealership," he said, not a greeting. "Rotate the tires. I'll be back in 20. Don't scratch the rims." Mason stepped forward before Gus could. "Welcome," he said. "We'll do it right." 45 minutes, not 20. We torqued to spec. "You want 20? You go somewhere that guesses." The kid blinked, 'cause people don't say no to boys who think they're yes. He huffed, rolled his eyes, and said fine. He came back 48 minutes later, paid, left, and peeled out. When the sound faded, Mason grinned at me over the hood of a Corolla. "Bear wasn't that big," he said. "No," I said. He was just loud. The real Grizzly greed entitlement. The thing that told my son it was easier to leave a man in a forest than to show up for a shift didn't vanish. Bears don't. They learn your trash habits and test your doors. So we keep our lids latched. We lock up at night. We don't feed what we don't want coming back. A month later, I asked Mason to ride with me to Kent for an overflow job. We drove with the windows down, Seattle pretending to be warm. At a red light, he said, "Dad?" "Yeah. I thought I wanted the keys," he said. "I think I just wanted to not be tired." "You will be," I said. "The good kind." He nodded. "Partner with," he said. Almost a joke, but not. "Partner with," I echoed. Driving back, my phone buzzed. A text from an Anchorage number I didn't know. A photo. Tom standing by the river, the dog with one blue eye next to him. Both of them staring into middle distance like men who outweight weather. Beneath it, "Bear's not here today." "Good day to fish." I sent back a photo of Betumasan at the bench. "Head down over a caliber," the carved bear in the corner of the frame. Beneath it, "Same here, we weren't done." We aren't now. But we'd moved from "go meet a grizzly" to "go meet your shift." It's less dramatic. It's the point. Asterisk if you're listening on the channel. Subscribe. This is where the story stops being a survival tale and turns into something you can actually use. Monday morning. Liz slid trust papers across her conference table like a dealer who likes you. We retitled the house and the shop accounts to the revocable trust with Liz as successor trustee. Spendthrift language. No contest clause. Updated powers of attorney Liz Financial. Gloria Healthcare. It wasn't a fortress. It was a fence you can see through and respect anyway. "Last thing," Liz said, capping her pen. "I drafted a simple apprenticeship agreement. Clear schedule, wages, expectations. Raises tied to ACE certifications and attendance. If he signs, you're an employer, not a walking ATM." "Good," I said. "That's the only kind of help that holds." At the bank afterward, I rented a safe deposit box for originals. The manager, Jenna Fields, straight spine, smart eyes, recognized my name from the shop. "My dad swears by your breaks," she said, smiling. Put the trust binder here. I'll add the power of attorney to your profile. As I slid the binder in, my fingers touched a manila envelope I'd forgotten sat under the deed, Sarah's handwriting on the front. For Mason. From Mom, open when you're lost. I didn't open it in the vault. I put it on the passenger seat and drove home without turning on the radio. At 2 p.m., Trooper Norton called to close the loop. Mr. Hart, we've logged your narrative and supporting material. Do you want us to email a summary to your son? We can note no charges at this time, yes, I said. Copy me. At 2:23. The email came through. Incident report abandonment, reckless endangerment, Dripney of Talkeetna. It read cool and clean coordinates. Timestamps. The sentence. Subjected departed area in vehicle. Leaving subject B without full support kit. Statement includes, go meet a Grizzly. Report filed at subject B's request. No charges at this time. Mason got the same email. He didn't text. He showed up at the shop at 4:01, shift over, hoodie off, shop shirt on. He stood in my doorway, eyes complicated. Trooper called me, he said. Said if you'd pressed SOS, I'd be paying for a search. Said I should be grateful you knew how to not die. He's right, I said. I know how. I shouldn't have had to. He swallowed. What now? Now you read this, I said, and handed him Sarah's envelope. He looked at her handwriting like it was a language he used to be fluent in. He sat. He broke the seal like it might break him. Danny, it started. Then the next line. No, this is for you, Mason. If you're reading this, it means you feel lost. I know that feeling. Your dad does too, though he won't say it out loud. He carries quiet. You carry loud. You're my boy either way. Here's what I know. Money without work is a thief. It steals opportunity from character long before it buys anything. If your father says no, it isn't because he loves you less. It's because he promised me he would love you right. Loving you right means teaching you how to carry weight without breaking the people who love you. When you were 8, scraped your knee, running to second. You wanted to quit. Your dad sat in the grass and showed you how to breathe, how to stand, how to run again, even if it still stung. He will do that your whole life if you let him. Let him choose a hard thing. Do it on purpose. I'd rather visit you in a small apartment you pay for than in a big house someone handed you and you don't know how to live in. Be kind to your father. He is a good man. He makes coffee too strong. He laughs at the wrong parts of movies. He gets up when he doesn't want to. It's how you build a life. If I were there, I'd kiss your cheek. I can't be. Kiss his for me when you can, love, Mom. He didn't cry. He did the thing men do when water starts that they don't want you to see. He breathed through his nose and stared at a spot on the wall until it fled. He folded the letter carefully and slid it back in the envelope like it was a tool he might need. Again, okay, he said quietly. Okay, I said. One more thing. I put 2 envelopes on the desk. Envelope 1, the apprenticeship offer printed clean. 12 months. Start at $19 hour. Raise $221 with a CA1 engine repair. $23 with a 4 steering suspension, $25 with the 5 brakes. Night classes at Shoreline, Community College Automotive Tech. I'll cover tuition if you maintain 80% and 0 no-shows. 3 strikes on attendance at work, resets a month. No cash advances. No borrowing from future dad at 6 months. Lead a KPI project at Kent. Comebacks under 1%. Warranty parts under 2%. Customer satisfaction above 4.75. Do that. And you earn 3% profit share at Rainier for the next year. At 12 months, we talk about adding you to the advisory board, not the checkbook. Envelope 2. A key blank and a plane ticket. He turned the blank over in his palm. What's this? A key blank, I said. To the office. It's not cut. You don't get the cuts until you hit your marks. To a C's. 6 months clean, that KPI project. Gus cuts the first shoulder. Alina cuts the second. I cut the bow. You cut the rest with your days. He almost smiled. Cheesy. Yep, I said. Cheesy. The kind that sticks to your ribs. He lifted the plane ticket. Seattle to Anchorage, he read. September. That, I said, is the real surprise. If you make 90 days, no callouts, no tantrums, we go back. Together, we shake Cole's hand. We bring Tom a proper thank you. We fish. We learn the river the right way. You meet the place you tried to use as a shortcut and you see what it actually is. His face did a thing I hadn't seen since he was 12, hope and fear sharing a chair. And if I don't make 90? He asked. We canceled the flight, I said. We try again next quarter. Choices? Not convincing. He nodded slowly. I want the key, he said. And the trip? Then, sign the paper, I said, sliding the apprenticeship across the desk. He signed. The pen didn't shake. We worked. Days ticked. He bought a used torque wrench with his own money. He passed a 5 brakes on a Thursday and a 4 steering suspension 3 weeks later. I bumped him to $23. Alina didn't make a speech. She taped a handwritten congrats, don't get cocky note on his locker. He laughed and texted a photo to no one he needed to impress. The troopers mailed the formal report. I pinned it to the inside of my office cabinet, along with Sarah's letter and the carved bear's little note. I didn't show Mason the cabinet. I didn't need to. He knew. On a Monday in August, I watched him step between 2 lives without splitting in half. A buddy pulled up in a dented Charger at lunch. He's loud, window down. Yo, the buddy called. We're bouncing to Chelan for the week. House on the lake. Come through. Live a little. Mason glanced at the bay clock. He glanced at the KPI chart for Kent. He'd taped up the one he was going to present Friday. He looked at me. I didn't say a word. I'm at work, he said to the window. Catch me Saturday. Bring the car in if it pulls right under throttle. His buddy rolled his eyes. Who are you? Someone who likes not being broke, Mason said. The Charger peeled. Mason went back inside. No speech. He bled a brake line and put the cap back on the bleeder. Partner with 2 weeks before the flight, I handed him the key blank. You're at cut 1, I said. Gus cuts the first shoulder, he said, grinning. Alina the second. You cut the bow, and you cut the rest, he said. He held the blank between 2 fingers and made a little sawing motion in the air. Partner with, he said. He still made fun of it. Less each time September came. He had 97 days clean. Kent's comebacks dropped under 1%. Alina sent me a text with 35 clapping hands. Gus sent one with a single thumbs up. That's like a choir from him. We flew to Anchorage as 2 men who had something between them that had been torn and sewn. Cole hugged us both and pretended he didn't. He flew low over a bend where the river looked like it was tracing veins in the earth. He set us down near Tom's place. Tom was on the shingle with the blue-eyed dog. He nodded once, the way mountains nod. Mason held out a wrapped package. For you, he said. Tom opened it. Inside, a small steel hook with a handle Mason had turned himself at community college wood shop on a Saturday good grain. Clean lines. For pots, Mason said, so you don't burn your hands. Tom weighed it in his palm, then hung it in the cabin like it had always belonged. Partner with, he said to Mason, pointing at the river. Mason grinned. I'm trying, we fished. We didn't talk about bears. We ate char on tin plates and let the river do the thing it does teach without explaining. Before we took off to head back, Tom handed Mason a scrap of cedar with 3 little grooves cut in it. It's a key, he said. Only to yourself. You cut the rest. Mason slid it into his pocket like a man who plans on not losing it. On the flight home, he fell asleep with his head back and his mouth open, 25 years old and 13 at the same time. I watched mountains go by and let relief do its slow work. I thought of Sarah's letter. I thought of the day in the clearing when a boy tried to turn me into a cautionary tale. I pressed the spot beacons okay. Button in my pocket out of habit. A little orange blink. Message sent. I'm here. I'm fine. When we landed in Seattle, he looked at me, really looked. Dad, he said. I'm sorry. I nodded. Repair, not revenge, I said. Partner with, he said. We drove home with the windows down and the radio off. The city smelled like rain thinking about it. Asterisk, if you're listening on the channel, tap subscribe. This part is about how change actually happens slow, with receipts. The Monday after we got back from Alaska, Rhaenyra felt different without looking different. Same coffee, same compressor wheeze, same Ernesto muttering to a water pump like it owed him rent. But the air around Mason didn't flex the way it used to. He clocked in, checked the board without sighing, and grabbed the broom before Alina pointed. At lunch, Gus called us to the office. He'd cleaned the corner like he was prepping a bay for paint no boxes, no clutter, just the key cutter on the counter unplugged, ceremonial as an altar. You met your first 3 marks, he said, chin at Mason, voice like a torque spec. 90 days on time, 2 ASEs, Kent KPI, under 1%. You're at cut 1. Mason glanced at me, then at the blank on my desk. He tried not to smile and failed. Gus didn't power the cutter. He took a hand file from his apron, small, triangular bastard file he uses to dress burrs on brackets. He set the blank on the bench and took 1 slow stroke across the shoulder. Metal whispered. This won't open anything, he said. It's a reminder. The door you're cutting is in your head. He handed the blank back. Don't lose it, he added. That's as close to sentiment as he gets. Work filled the day like it should. At closing, Mason stayed to wipe down the counter. He slid the blank into his pocket and patted it once like a superstitious ball player taps the plate. Week 14 brought heat and a run of brake jobs that made the shop smell like ambition and resin. We shifted overflow to Kent. I sent Mason to shadow there 2 days a week. Kent is where messes go to learn Manor's older building, tighter lot. Customers who work 2 jobs and don't have time for comebacks. On a Friday at Kent, a supplier dropped off the wrong pads for a RAV4 same shape. Different thickness, wrong compound. New tech, eager to be liked, started grinding the backing plates to make them fit. Mason saw the spark shower out of the corner of his eye. He set his ratchet down, walked over, and put a hand on the tech's shoulder knot, a grab, a pause. Stop, he said. Calm, not loud. We're not putting those on. The tech bristled. They'll fit, he said. It's fine. It'll squeal in a week and we'll eat it, Mason said. Call Napa. Get the right ones. I'll tell the customer. He took the heat that slow boil customers get when they didn't budget bleeds into ours they don't have. He didn't hide behind a bay door. He stood in front of a woman in scrubs with a crease on her nose from her mask and explained, wrong pads. Our fault. We're fixing it. We'll comp the labor difference and deliver the car to her apartment at 7 p.m. after her shift. She stared at him. For 2 seconds longer than most people can hold a stare. Then she said, fine, and meant, thank you for not lying. It cost us an hour. It bought us a customer who told 3 nurses at 2 a.m. that our shop did right when it could have done easy. Alina walked in as he hung up with Napa. She'd come to check deposits and left with a story. She didn't say good job. She said, walk with me. They went to the back room and she pulled a tiny jeweler's file out of a drawer I didn't know she kept. She took Mason's blank, braced it in a soft jaw, cut a second little stroke into the opposite shoulder. Cut 2, she said, handing it back. You earned it. Don't get cocky, he grinned. Already taped that to my locker, he said. She smirked. Then tape this on your forehead, she said, and poked him between the eyes. Clarity beats swagger. 2 days later, Trooper Norton's letter arrived state seal, cool language that reads like it has a long memory. It summarized the report, confirmed the coordinates. Listed the sentence I will never forget seeing on paper, Subject A stated. Bye. Go meet a Grizzly. Status filed. No charges at this time. I didn't hand it to Mason with a speech. I set it on his toolbox after hours with a sticky note. Facts. Repair greater than revenge. He didn't bring it up the next morning. He did the day after. I want to write him back, he said quietly. The trooper, do it, said. He sat at the counter with a blue pen and the kind of concentration you usually only see over a bench vise. He wrote 3 drafts. He kept the one that didn't sound like Instagram. Trooper Norton, thank you for the call and the letter. I was Subject A. I left my father at a remote site and took the vehicle. He did not press SOS. He did not press charges. He did file a report because adults keep records. I am not asking you to erase anything. I am writing to say I am taking responsibility and changing my behavior. I have an apprenticeship in place with clear terms. I am working. I am also making a donation to Alaska Search and Rescue to pay forward a rescue. I didn't require because my father knew how to stay alive. I will not put him or anyone in that place again. If it matters to your file, you can note this letter. Respectfully, Mason Harth folded it careful, the way he'd folded Sarah's letter. He added a check more than I thought he'd write, less than he'd feel. The right size for a man starting out? We mailed it. Norton sent a 1-line reply 2 weeks later. Letter added to file. Keep going. Month 6 crept up while we were busy doing Tuesday things oil. Filt is explaining to a man for the 4th time that his lifetime transmission fluid is a marketing term. It's not a mechanical reality. On day 183, Kent's KPI board showed what leadership looks like when it doesn't try to be seen. Comeback 0.8%. Warranty parts 1.7%. CSAT 4.85. Mason's name wasn't on the chart. It didn't need to be. The numbers were. That afternoon, he came into my office and did something I hadn't planned for. He put the key blank on my desk and stepped back. Hold it, he said. I did. I don't want the 3rd cut yet, he said. Not because I don't want it, because I don't want to think the cut is the thing. Let me earn it without looking at it. That lodged in me like a bearing pressed true. Okay, I said. You tell me when. In late fall we got tested. Not with Alaska. With something smaller and just as sharp. An old friend of Mason's came in with a bogus opportunity, crypto-something dressed up in spreadsheet words. A quick flip, seed money, friends and family round, he cornered Mason on lunch. Hit him with a pitch, then with a hook. You can be in on the ground floor. Or you can be cleaning floors. Mason looked at me across the lot. I didn't walk over. I didn't do the dad glower. I kept wiping a dipstick like the oil had secrets. No, he told the friend. I've got my ground floor. The friend laughed. You like being poor now? I like sleeping, Mason said. It cost him a friend he didn't need. It bought him another week of mornings where the coffee tastes like a plan, near Christmas. The shop got slammed the way shops do when cold makes batteries tell the truth. A minivan rolled in dead. A woman with 2 car seats and a face that had learned to count out quarters. The estimate wasn't kind. The sale would be easy, ma'am. You need it. Easy isn't always right. Mason checked the battery warranty and found it was 2 days inside the coverage. He could have shrugged and told the truth to our advantage. He told the better truth. Good news, he said. It's under warranty. We'll swap it. Free, she cried. He handed her the box of tissues we keep under the counter for oil-cut knuckles and feelings that night. After we locked up, I pulled a small cash envelope from my drawer and slid it across the desk. Profit share, I said. 3% on Rainier for the quarter. You earned it. He didn't tear it open. He put it in his pocket. I want to put this in the tool account, he said. You said you'd match. I did, I said. What are you buying? A torque wrench that doesn't lie, he said, grinning, and a seat in the spring class for a 6 electrical. He was choosing hard again. That's the muscle. On a gray January morning, a letter came from Tom. No phone number. Just the river. Dottie and Mason. Dog says hi. He still only winks at people who tell the truth slow. The river did what rivers do, froze in the shallow lies. Kept moving in the deep truth. You can come up when the light comes back. Bring coffee. I'll bring silence. If the boy keeps that cedar key, he'll learn he didn't lose the map. He just had the wrong page. Partner with TIF and Mason taped the letter above his bench. Right next to the dinosaur sticker from the little girl with the Ford Escape. By spring, I was running out of reasons not to cut the bow. He'd hit 12 months, 3 ASEs, 2 shops touched by better numbers, 1 trooper's letter, and 0 slammed doors. He still snapped sometimes. So do I. He still looked at the clock at 4:52 like every man who has ever worked with his hands. So do I. But when he snapped, he apologized without being asked. When he looked at the clock, he wiped a surface that didn't need it instead of pretending a job was done when it wasn't. On the anniversary of the day, he swept Bay 1 for the first time. I laid the blank on the bench between us. You ready? I asked. He didn't reach for it. What's the test? He asked. No test, I said. Just a question. I held up the spot beacon. If we went back out there and the truck drove away again, what would you do first? He didn't blink. I'd check my kit, he said. Then I'd check my head. I'd press OK. I'd build a small fire. I'd boil water. I'd wait. I wouldn't make a speech at the trees. I nodded. Good, I said. Second question. If a kid rolls in here with the wrong pads and a story, what do you do? Partner with, he said. He made the words a joke, then didn't. I slow him down. I take the heat. I tell the truth. I make it right, even if it eats an hour. I plugged in the cutter. The little motor whined to life, thin and serious. I slid the blank in and shaved a clean line off the bow. Not the business end. The part that holds the shape. The part your fingers learn. Cut 3, I said. We didn't put it on a ring. We didn't run to the door. He slid it into his pocket and stood there like a man who had just been handed something that was heavier than it looked. Thank you, he said. Don't lose it, I said, because I am me. That night, we ate Gloria's lasagna at her table because she refuses to let me pretend I'm the only one who knows how to feed a family. Mason took seconds and told her the story of the wrong pads. She cackled in the way only retired nurses and church ushers do. Baby, she said, don't grind what doesn't fit. He raised his glass of iced tea. To not grinding, he said. To not grinding, we echoed after dinner. He walked me down the hall and stopped at the door like the apartment might move if he didn't say the thing in his throat. I wrote Mom a letter, he said, eyes on the peephole. I know she won't read it. I needed to write it. I do that too, I said. It goes where it needs to. I put it in the safe deposit box, he said. Next to hers? If that's okay? It is, I said. That's exactly where it belongs. We stood there, 2 men learning a language we should have been taught earlier. Then we went inside. He pointed at Sarah's photo and kissed his fingers to it without making a big thing out of it. It was a big thing anyway. Before bed, Trooper Norton's reply landed short and formal as always, received. Stay the course. That's all the state owes you. The rest you owe each other. We do. Asterisk if you're listening on the channel, hit subscribe. This one's about what a key really opens and what it doesn't. The first morning he used it, he didn't tell me. That's how I knew it mattered. 5:41 a.m. Seattle was the gray kind of quiet that smells like wet cardboard and coffee. Mason stood at Rainier's front door, slid the freshly cut blank into the lock, and turned. The tumblers answered with a tired click. The door didn't welcome him. It allowed him. There's a difference. He went in like openers do lights on in sequence. Compressor breaker, fans too low, bay doors cracked just enough to breathe. He put on coffee, tossed yesterday's filters, and swapped a busted broom head without telling anyone. He flipped the laminated open-up sheet Alina had taped inside the counter 2 years ago date. Initials? The 10 tiny things that keep the big things from going sideways. What the key opened. Front door? Office door? The habit of showing up before anyone's watching what the key didn't open. The safe? The books. The part of a man that wants shortcuts. At 6:58, he'd checked tire pressures on the 4 first ins and chalked bay assignments in dry erase. So, Ernesto wouldn't have to squint. I came in at 7:10 with donuts and a look I didn't have to put words on. He just lifted his chin like a guy who'd been there a while. Coffee's better when you make it, he said. Everything is. The crisis at Kent 2, weeks later. On a Wednesday that wanted to be Friday, Kent got hit with the kind of rush that turns a shop into a drum solo 8 brake jobs. 3 oil changes, 1 mystery squeal, Phone's a chorus. Mason was scheduled there, shadowing the lead 2 days a week. Alina was across town handling a vendor walkthrough. Gus and I were tied up with an axle that didn't respect calendars at 10:17. Something small went wrong that could have turned big. A new kid topped a reservoir on a CRV from the brake fluid jug. The jug was purple. DOT5 silicone. In our shop, we run .3/4 glycol. Mix them, and you can swell rubber seals, kill ABS modules, buy yourself comebacks you can't afford. Mason saw the color when the kid set the jug down. He didn't shout. He took the jug, set it aside, and said, "Freeze." The bay froze. He sniffed the next silicone sweet in a way glycol isn't. He dabbed a drop between his fingers. "This is 5, he said. The kid went white. "It was on the top shelf. Someone must have put it in the wrong slot," he said, panic rising. Mason didn't flail. He moved. "Everybody stop," he said, loud enough for the whole building. "Nobody tests brakes. Nobody starts a car. Tools down now." Phones rang. He let them. He called the supplier, asked for the route manager, told him what he had. 1 jug of 5 delivered in a .3 order. 1 top off on a CRV, unknown if any other cars were hit this week. He didn't vent. He documented. He asked for batch numbers and a driver pull list. He asked for a rep on site. He got names. Then he called me. I didn't pick up. I was under a truck, knuckles in a place engineers designed to teach patience. He called Alina. She answered on the first ring. "Make the call," she said. "Own it. Protect the floor. Spend what you have to. We'll back you." He wrote a list of every car we'd touched brakes on in the last 48 hours. Pulled their ROS and started dialing. No scripts. Just clarity. We found a contamination issue with brake fluid on our shelf. It appears one of your reservoirs may have been topped with the wrong type. This is on us to solve. We're sending a tow. We'll flush the system, replace any affected rubber components, road test, and get it back same day. No charge. If you can't be without a car, we'll put you in a loaner or cover a ride. I'm sorry. This is on us. Some customers were mad. You let them be. Some were scared. You calmed them down with timelines and logistics. 3 thanked him out loud for calling them before anything went wrong. 1, a teacher said, "I always tell my kids mistakes happen. Owning them is the test." You passed, he had 6 tows arriving within an hour. He set Bay 1 as the flush lane. Bay 2 for teardown and seal checks. Bay 3 for test drives. He lined up 3 gallons of DOT4, swapped the contaminated jug to quarantine, marked it with tape in bold black X's. He wrote a sign for the counter. "Pause. We're fixing a supply issue. Thank you for your patience. Free coffee." He started a fresh pot. By the time I walked in, he had a system. He wasn't smiling. He also wasn't buzzing with adrenaline. He was working. Cost. I asked. "Estimate," he said. Eyes on the list. Tow bills, 7 cars, about $840. Fluid and parts, $600. Overtime, call it $900. Total near $2,400. The seals aren't wrecked. Supplier sending a rep. I'll fight for credit. Even if they won't, we're doing it. It's our counter. Our call. Good call, I said. We spent until close flushing systems. It's popping ABS bleeders in the right order, feeling brake pedals come back to life. The supplier sent a guy with a polo and an apology face. He saw the purple jug, swallowed, and promised a credit memo within 24 hours. I took his card and told him I wanted a phone call from his warehouse manager with a new bin label policy. He promised that too. We finished under fluorescent hum, and the kind of quiet laughter only exhausted crews get. Mason typed a post for our website and socials. We made an error. We are fixing it. Here's what happened. Here's what we did. Here's how you can check your own brake fluid in the future. Comments rolled in some snark, mostly praise. Honesty buys you a kind of gravity money doths. The next morning, Alina showed up with a little red self-inking stamp. She set it on Mason's bench. Make it right authorized up to $200, M. Hart, you don't need to ask me for small stuff anymore, she said. Comp a ride. Replace a wiper if the arm tears it. Fix something that's our fault. Up to 200 without a call. Keep a log. Spend like it's your money. He pressed the stamp on a rag. Red letters. Authority, small and heavy. Got it, he said. You earned it, she said. Don't get cocky. He rolled his eyes the way gratitude disguises itself as sarcasm. What the key opened. Again the day after the mess, he used the key to open at Kent the old lock that sticks unless you say something nice to it. He turned it hip on the door, shoulder easy. It opened. He didn't try the safe. He didn't need to. He was in the building before the sun got to the windows. He made coffee and found a dead moth floating in the pot, dumped it, and started over. He wrote on the whiteboard, "Today we focus." No guesses. Test. Invitation back to Alaska. Email came from an address that ended in .gov and surprised me enough that I read it twice. Mr. Hart, this is Trooper Norton. Alaska State Troopers. Matsu West. Our local Search and Rescue Volunteer Association is hosting a safety night and fundraiser in Anchorage. Next month prep comes in decision-making for backcountry users. Your letter and your son's follow-up have been circulating as an example of repair over revenge. I'd like to invite you both to speak for 10 minutes on preparation, communication, and accountability. Travel reimbursed. No pressure. If you come, I owe you a coffee. Regards. TPRJ, Norton I, printed it and slid it across the counter to Mason. He read it, eyes going wide, then soft. You want to? He asked. I do, I said. We went in March when Alaska's light starts remembering how to stay. Norton was younger than his voice, older than his badge, one of those men, whether makes adult. He shook both our hands with the same grip, looked me in the eye like he was checking for fog, and thanked Mason before he thanked me. The room was packed with people who own boots. People who own kayaks, and people who own the kind of stubborn that kills you if you don't aim it. We stood at a podium that had seen better speeches and told the truth. I had a belt kit. I had a beacon. I used my brain before my pride. I didn't call for a helicopter to prove a point. He wrote a letter. He went to work. We decided to keep our story at repair. Norton took the mic after us and said something that stuck to me for days. The woods don't read your intentions, he said. They read your actions. So do people. After the talk, the SAR folks put us to work selling raffle tickets and hanging up coats because that's what community really is. An older volunteer in a fleece that had seen more winters than I've had birthdays patted Mason's shoulder. We like it when boys become men, she said. It keeps us from having to go look for them. We rented a car, drove up to see Tom, and found the river holding hard ice with a ribbon of open in the middle. Tom was splitting wood in a steady rhythm that could hypnotize a fight out of a man. The blue-eyed dog ignored us until we'd stood still long enough to be counted. We talked about bears for the first time without flinching. I thought you'd die, Mason said to me. Fire low, tin mugs hot. I don't even know if I wanted that. I think I wanted to force something to happen. I hate that. I hate that I was that guy. I'm not asking you to say it's okay. I'm telling you, I know what I did. I felt disposable, I said. The word tasted like a nail. Like a man-sized paper cup you decided to crush because you were thirsty. That's the feeling I don't ever want again. What you've done since doesn't erase it. It makes something new on top. That's the best offer any of us get. Tom poked the coals, sent up a little fountain of sparks. Bears aren't evil, he said. They're bears. The dumb ones starve. The smart ones find lids they can pry. Don't be a lid people can pry. Don't be a bear who only knows hunger. Mason nodded. Partner with, he said. And Tom grunted something that meant you're allowed to repeat my words as long as you mean them. We left 2 bags of good coffee and a new heat pipe elbow Tom had mentioned wearing thin. He sent us with dried salmon and a piece of cedar he'd cut 3 grooves into. Make your last cut when you earn it, he told me. Tapping the cedar and then the key in my pocket. On the flight home, Mason fell asleep again. mouth open, not snoring, just trusting the air. I looked at the spot in my pocket and didn't press anything. I didn't need to this time. The bow and the door back at Rainier. Spring came in with the kind of rain that tries to be light and fails. On a Tuesday, I found Mason at the door at 5:39, key already in the lock. I watched the way he turned at no show, no rush. I let myself remember the clearing and the truck and the sentence that used to wake me up at 3 a.m. Then I let it go like a breath I'd been holding for too long. "You want my cut?" I asked. He didn't reach for the key. He reached for the checklist. "We've got work," he said. "We do," that afternoon. Kent got a walk-in quarterly audit from the same supplier who'd sent us purple brake fluid. The rep asked to see our bin labels and our shelf system. Mason walked him through it, including the policy we'd written after the incident's sealed jug tape colors. Supervisor sign-off, a test strip on every top-off for cars older than 10 years. The rep took notes like a student who cares. "I wish all our accounts were like this," he said. "Make them," Mason said. The rep smiled. "We're trying." And finally, one more thing the key didn't open. My checkbook. It never will. What it opened was a morning, a bay, a door that answers to time and patience. That's enough. In the weeks after Alaska, Norton mailed us to SAR patches and a short handwritten note. "Thank you for choosing repair. Stay the course." The woods still don't care. People still do. We pinned one patch to the corkboard by the time clock and one under Sarah's photo at home. Not for show. For memory, at the end of a long Friday, Mason wiped down Bay 1, set torque wrenches to 0, and killed the lights in sequence. He waited for me at the door, held it with his foot, and said, "You want a lock, or should I?" "You," I said. He turned the key slow, respectful. The lock answered with that tired click. He grinned at it, like you grin at a stubborn friend who finally learned your name. "What's next?" he asked. "Monday," I said. "Always Monday." If you're listening on the channel, hit subscribe. This is where the arc lands. It was a Friday that pretended to be a Monday rain stitching the alley, phones on a short fuse. A call came in from a number I recognized from 3 weeks prior. A silver Camry we'd done rotors, pads, and hardware on at Kent. "Mr. Hart?" The voice shook. My brakes locked at a light. I slid into a truck. "We're okay, the car." The airbags went off. My throat went dry. "Are you hurt?" "No," she said. "Just shaking. Where are you?" "We're coming." By the time Mason and I reached the intersection, a tow driver was already staging flares. The Camry's nose was wrinkled like a frown. The truck had a scuff. No blood, no sirens. Just 2 drivers trading adrenaline for paperwork? Mason knelt by the Camry's front right wheel. Eyes scanning, fingers gentle. He saw it at the same time I did. 1 caliber bracket bolt backed halfway out. Not gone, backed out. The secondary bolt was still holding. The rotor had chattered, then seized when the bracket cocked. At 5 miles per hour, with wet asphalt and a green light turning yellow, that's enough to make a mess. Airbags totaled it. He looked up at me, jaw set but not trembling. "We reused corroded bracket bolts," he said, almost to himself. "They should have been replaced. We torqued to spec, but the threads weren't clean enough to hold. We should have recommended replacement and didn't. That's on us. The sentence cost money. It bought something we don't sell, the right to keep our name." I turned to the driver. "This is on us," I said plainly. "We have garage liability insurance. I'll call them. For today, we'll cover your tow, your rental for the weekend, and delivery of a loaner. I'm sorry." She looked at me, measured me the way people measure men with bills in their hands. "Okay," she said. The okay meant, "You met me at the worst moment and didn't lie. Back at the shop, we did the dance that makes small businesses live or die. We called our carrier. We pulled the row and the text notes. We documented with photos. We wrote a statement that didn't pretend. We scheduled a safety stand down at 3 p.m. all bays, both shops. I said very little in that meeting. Mason led it. He stood with a box of new bracket bolts and a torque chart taped to the wall. We're changing 3 things, he said. 1. On any brake job where bolts show corrosion on threads, we replace them, period. We stock them now. 2. We paint mark every critical fastener caliper bracket, tie rod jam nut, lower ball joint pinch red stripe on the head and the knuckle. Second tech initials the mark. No mark, no car leaves. 3. Every brake job gets a documented road test with an extra half-mile of stops. No assumptions. No feels good, numbers and marks. He looked around the room, Ernesto wiping his hands. Kids trying to look smaller. Alina, with a clipboard she didn't use. This cost us today, he said. It buys us trust tomorrow. We did the work. Insurance covered the totaled Camry. Our premium will go up. That's the part you swallow. The customer came in with a half-alive smile a week later to sign papers and drop off a box of cookies for the guys. Thank you for not making me fight, she said. Everyone told me I'd have to fight. You shouldn't have had to, Mason said. We did this one wrong. He took the comeback on the chin and didn't flinch. That's a man's jaw learning its job. After that, our processes were boring in the best way. Red paint marks bloomed on knuckles like little flags. Techs signed their initials like promises. Our comeback stayed under 1%, even when the bays were full and the phones wanted drama. A guy on a neighborhood forum posted that we owned a mistake and made it right. And suddenly, we were changing rotors for half his block. Reputation is a weird animal. It eats your lies, and it guards your truth. 2 weeks after the Camry, a small envelope appeared on Mason's bench with my handwriting on it. He opened it. Inside, a card with one line, "You're ready." He found me in the office, with the cutter on the counter and the little cedar sliver Tom had sent us propped against Sarah's photo. He didn't say anything. He slid the key blank across the bench and stood quiet. He didn't ask for a speech. He got one anyway, because I'm me. What this key opens is not the safe, I said. It opens mornings. It opens hard conversations. It opens the door when a comeback tries to slam in your face and you decide to stand in the frame and not let it. He nodded once. He handed me the blank. I plugged in the cutter. The motor sang. I cut the bow clean, smoothed in, took a jeweler's file and kissed the edges until they were honest. Cut 3, I said, placing the key in his palm. Don't lose it. He closed his hand around it like it might get cold. He didn't run to the lock. He tucked it in his pocket and looked at Sarah's picture. Mom would like the red paint, he said. She would, I said, and felt it in my bones. An unexpected call. The surprising call came from Shoreline Community College. The Autotech chair, Ms. Nguyen, its voice bright and known since asked for Mason. We heard you led a stand down and revamped brake SOPs, she said. You want to taw our night lab this spring? Electrical and brakes. Pays trash. Looks good on resumes. Mostly, it helps kids not strip caliper pins and set cars on fire. He looked at me. I didn't nod. I stayed still, a place to lean in case he needed it. Yes, he said. I want that. He paid for his own updated tools with profit share and my match. We set up a little scholarship in Sarah's name. $500 and a decent torque wrench to a first-year tech who shows up and keeps showing up. He wrote the note that goes in the box. Money without work is a thief. Here's a tool. Earn the rest. He didn't sign it with his name. He signed it from a shop that learned the hard way. The last cut that wasn't on a key on a quiet Saturday. It took Mason to the bank. Jenna, our manager, slid a folder across the desk. Simple. Clean, Heartline apprenticeship profit share. Plan Mason Hart. 10% profit share vested over 4 years contingent on continued employment. KPI targets and mentoring to junior techs per year to ACE certification. Distributions at year-end. No voting rights. Advisory seat on quarterly ops reviews after 18 months. This isn't ownership, I said. It's skin in the game. It's how you earn the map you thought you wanted to steal. He read it all the way. Through twice. He didn't ask for more. He asked for responsibilities. What are my metrics? He said, I slid over a one-page. Clean. 3 lines. Attendance. 98% on time. KP is comebacks under 1%. Warranty under 2%. ZOT greater than 4.7 mentor 2 texts to an ace pass per year, he signed. I signed, Jenna notarized. We didn't take a picture. We went back to the shop and bled brakes on a Tacoma, the Grizzly that wasn't spring. Pushed the gray out of Seattle with a stubborn sun. On a Sunday, we hiked up to a ridge in the Cascades where firs do that thing they do make you feel small in the kind way. Halfway up, we saw a bare scat fresh, full of berry seeds and whatever secrets animals keep. We made noise. We gave space. We kept moving. At a bend, a black bear crossed the trail 50 yards ahead. Glanced and loped into brush like a person who forgot his wallet and remembered he didn't need it. We stood still, counted to 60, and walked on. Mason laughed, not bravado relief, and something like respect. Not much of a grizzly, he said. They usually aren't, I said. The grizzly is the story we tell ourselves to avoid the work. The actual bear just wants breakfast. He nodded and kicked a pine cone off the trail. That was the story, he said. I don't want to be, you aren't, I said. Not anymore. Back at the truck, he pulled the spot from his pocket, his now, 'cause I'd bought him one for Christmas with a note taped to it. Okay means call me. He pressed the okay. The little orange light blinked. You carry yours? He asked. Every day, said. We ate bad gas station sandwiches on the tailgate and watched the kind of cloud that promises rain and delivers a breeze. He pulled the key out of his pocket and turned it over in his fingers. It doesn't feel like power, he said. It isn't. I said, it's permission. You earned it. That's all power is that sticks. He looked at me like he finally understood a part of my face he'd been misreading for years. Thanks for not calling the cops, he said, a sideways smile. Thanks for not making me, I said. He put the key back in his pocket and tapped it twice. Not superstition. A rhythm. Monday. Epilogue. The door, the river, the shop. We still get days where the phone sours the air. We still get bolts that won't seat and plastic clips that snap in your hands, and a customer who wants yesterday's oil change to pay for today's engine. We still paint mark bolts and reset torque to 0 and sweep at 658 because that's how mornings forgive you. Once a year, we fly to Anchorage. We bring coffee and a stovepipe elbow and the kind of silence Tom likes. He gives us cedar with grooves. We give him stories that don't ask for applause. Trooper Norton comes by the fundraiser and makes me drink weak coffee I pretend is good. He tells the room again. The woods don't read your intentions. They read your actions, I add. So do your kids. At Rainier, carved bear sits on my desk, belly still reading partner with. Under Sarah's photo on the office wall, the SAR patch shares a thumbtack with Mason's A5 certificate. Above the time clock, Lena taped a laminated card that says repair greater than revenge. In a font someone designed for honesty, the safe still doesn't open for Mason's key. The books still stay in my office. But at 5:41 a.m., the front door turns for him the way it turns for me. He opens lights in sequence. He makes coffee that's almost as good as mine. He uses that little red stamp make it right less than I feared and more than he wants. He teaches night lab at Shoreline. He mentors a kid who reminds him of the boy who tried to take a shortcut through a forest and found a map instead. If you came here for a twist where I threw him out or he begged and I made him sweat, sorry, that's not the story. The surprise I promised wasn't a trap. It was a key blank and a plane ticket and a trust that doesn't wait for a funeral to teach a man to carry. We pick the place or we pass. We press OK, we go to work. The grizzly, if he shows up, is loud and mostly harmless. The real danger is the part of us that would rather tell a story than do a job, so we do the job. We keep our receipts. We partner with, and every now and then, when we lock the shop and the door gives that tired click. Mason grins at the lock like it's an old friend who finally learned our name. He turns to me and says what he always says. Monday. Always, I say. Always Monday.